Two guys and a mic. Jim Ryan with Mark Rizzo. It is episode number 4. We have survived 4 of these so far. Well, 3. We're going to work on 4.
And if they missed the first 3, I don't know how they're going to catch it.
Yeah, we've got riveting content. We are two guys who spent, combined about 70 years in the music business, both radio and records. And this is a podcast about music and more. Yeah, it's going to be musically focused. We'll have guests. We're working on a whole bunch of other things, and we'll throw in, what's going on in our lives, like how many doctors I've been going to lately. Between my wife and I, it's like, as you get older, is that all you do is go to a doctor?
I think it's a requisite. And if you move down to Florida like you and I did, it speeds up the process too.
Yes, it does. We also should talk about our favorite baseball teams on a hot streak lately. All because of the grimace. What's the deal with the grimace thing? I
Well,
don't get it.
apparently they're running out of people that throw out the first pitch. So they brought him out to throw out the first pitch. And since then, they've won 7 in a row. But being a longtime Met fan like you, I'm not ready to get sucked into it just yet.
But if this keeps up, if we keep talking about the Mets, then maybe they'll ask us to come throw out the first pitch, and you can bounce the ball on the way to the plate.
I don't know, but hey, we'll take 7 in a row, and that's pretty good for them considering they had a horrible start, which we spoke about in the first couple episodes about our passion for the Mets, even though it's been a heartbreaking experience.
By the time the listeners are hearing this, it might not be 7 in a row anymore. Maybe by then it'll be 20 in a row.
That they won or lost?
We've won. We can only hope, right? It is two guys and a mic. It is a podcast. We want you to, by the way, anywhere you listen to podcasts, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell. That'll get more people in here. That'll get bigger guests, bigger prizes, as Mark is working on prizes. So
yeah, well, I've made it clear we'll be giving away a card. So
right,
it's an exciting prospect for
hopefully for you, the interest rates will come down in time for you to reward this car.
We're going to call Oprah. She'll get us the car.
There you go. Just look under your chair at the end of this podcast to see if you're a winner. You get a car. So we have a top 5 thing we're trying to do each and every week, musically related, at least for now. So this week, the subject, if you will, is top female artist of all time, in our opinion. This is no way any kind of driven by sales or streams or anything like that. This is just our opinion of the top 5 female artists of all time. So I will let you, Mark, start.
Well, we're going to base it on our own experience because you've obviously met a lot of female artists as I have, or just basically on the talent that you feel.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do.
Well, I'll start obviously on personal experience and my personal opinion, and professionally, I'd say Whitney Houston.
I knew you were going to put her on your list.
Well, being able to work I'll Always Love You and hearing that voice, and I just recently heard a Kevin Costner interview about her as well. And I think that voice was just so majestic and so above whatever else was out there. Although there was competition, we can get into the Mariah Careys and that whole battle. But I think her voice was very special, and I'd put her on top of my list.
Well, she's definitely got a special voice. She didn't make my list, and I honestly, yes, I honestly thought about it and then didn't go there. But on the top of my list is Stevie Nicks.
Interesting. Okay.
I know she's got that raspier rock voice, but her solo stuff is so good. Her stuff with Fleetwood Mac was so good. I put her up there as she's not the quintessential pop princess, let's say, like if you want to go back to Madonna or you want to go to anybody today, Pink to whoever, Katy Perry and Kelly Clarkson and Olivia Rodrigo and any of those. But Stevie Nicks definitely is the top female for me.
Is it because of her style?
I think it's her style, her singing, her songwriting. I mean, Belladonna, that album is just, it's if we were gonna put favorite albums out there, she that would make, my list of definite top 20 all-time favorite albums.
Well, she's got a unique voice. She's obviously, when you hear it, you know it's her. So I could see
Yeah,
what's wrong with that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you go to number two, and then did you do your number one? Then I'll do.
Okay, my number two is gonna be Mariah Carey.
Okay.
I mean, she's got she's
Five
not the
octaves,
easiest
right?
person to work with. Now, I've been involved with interviews, and she had a point there where she would, oh, she's coming, and then you're waiting around, and it never materialized. She can be a bit of a diva that way, but she's got an incredible voice. That's very hard you know, to knock that. Her
Right.
voice is amazing. She can hit the notes, and she's an incredible singer and performer.
And she's from Long Island, so there you go.
That's true.
Okay.
I got
I
one I
mean,
think that's going to throw you for a loop, but you go to your number two.
I have to go to one that I think most people would say Barbara Streisand. I think when you hear her sing in the notes, and you can get, I would get goosebumps when I could hear her sing certain songs. I mean, that's a voice. That's a voice, as she would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Barbara's got an incredible voice.
I've never seen her
Um,
perform live, so I can't say that. I know people who have worked with her and recorded with her, and she's not the monster that some people say she is. But
she has a reputation for coming off, but I've also heard that she can be, a real sweetheart.
it's probably part of the female stamp that they give
Yeah.
called divas.
Well, she's demanding, and rightfully so. She demands, probably perfection from herself and then from the others that work with her.
And
But
I
it's
think
hard
as
to
a
argue that
female,
voice.
yeah, I think as a female, when you know what you want, you're bossy. I mean, they label you bossy if you're strong-willed and you've
Yeah.
got opinions, and she knows her stuff. So
Yeah.
probably the men who she worked with got defensive or whatever and said, she's this, this, and this. But she knows what she wants, and I think she has performed on many, many levels that she succeeds as being
Yeah.
one
And
of
for a
the
while,
stars.
she had some huge top 40 hits back in the late 70s into early 80s.
That's wonderful.
What's that?
She's wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
her voice is great. We won't get into the politics of that whole thing.
No, no, let's
I
not go
don't,
there.
I don't want to open up any of that. But the fact of the matter is the talent is there.
Yes, for sure. Next on my list is Pat Benatar.
Hmm,
Pat Benatar, another Long Island girl.
interesting.
Um, and a rock. You can tell I'm leaning towards the rock, but
Yeah,
she's definitely she had her moment in the 80s, similar to Madonna, when you had a lot of girls like would dress like Madonna. There was a lot of girls who wanted that look.
exactly.
Yeah.
I knew a girl who was infatuated with that. So she was styled like her and she wanted to be her. Yeah. Love is a
And she's
basketball.
another one that she could probably sing opera if she needed to, because she's classically trained,
Yeah.
but she can hit many notes and just belt them out, and had some great songs for sure.
Well, I also had Mariah on my list, but being you said that, I'll skip over. So we should have a different choice.
Okay.
What about Celine Dion?
Yeah, she's in the conversation. I didn't put her on my list,
I'll
but
put her in mine.
I don't blame you one bit for doing it. It's so sad today to see what's happening with her health wise.
She's been
She,
all over TV with this. Yeah, it's very
yeah,
sad.
she's been so sick. She is an incredible, incredible performer. Um, and it's hard not to recognize that as being, she sold a lot of records. Not that that puts it in, but the songs she did were very powerful. They were big radio hits. They
Big
very
songs, big
popular.
ballads.
She, I mean, they built a theater for her at Caesar's Palace, and she basically started that whole residency where, like you two did the Sphere or somebody, they built that theater for her and her show. And she performed for millions out there.
We had a chance to see her at a record convention, R&R, which stood for Radio and Records. I don't know, was it that convention or a Gavin convention when that was a publication in the business as well? And she was just a young girl, and they were taking her around. I think David Foster. I don't remember if he brought her out or he brought out Josh Groban, but both of those acts he had put his imprint on, and she was just a young girl, and
Yeah.
she developed into quite the superstar.
All right. The next one on my list, here's one that'll shock you, I think. And I'm not going rock, although she recently did a rock
I know where you're going.
album. Where
You're
am I
going
going?
Dolly Parton.
I
Dolly
am
Parton.
going Dolly Parton. Dolly
Interesting.
Parton, her imprint on music, not just country, but just generally pop or rock now that she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I know there's a lot of people that have controversy about that. I just think Dolly Parton has captured the essence of the American public over the years, been very true to herself and an unbelievable performer, and never did get the chance to see her live, but I can't think of a Dolly Parton song I don't like.
Interesting. Well,
So
I hear good things about her as well. I've never worked with her, although I have worked some of her songs. But all right, that's a good one. And then
yeah,
you've got others that you could put into the mix, but I don't know how they measure up. You got the Show of Crows, you got Madonna, as you said, you've got
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. I don't
Here's
know
one, and
Cher.
well, Cher, but here's another one for early career. She needs something else. But when it comes to voices, you and I both saw her at Radio City Music Hall. But Adele
Oh, yeah,
is a
you left that.
fabulous voice.
You left her out. That's a big one to leave out. Correct.
Yeah. And she had an incredible run of like the first three, maybe four albums. The
Yep.
last one really didn't do much. I'm hoping that she'll come back with something, but I don't know. She may be past that. I don't know what her plan is, but
But
she
the girl.
definitely
Yep.
she definitely started in the, you know, let's call it the alternative world with Chasing Pavements, which kind
Hmm.
of crossed the pop. But then she had those couple albums, 19 and 21, that just had like one smash after the next.
Yep.
And be looking forward. It'd be great to see her do something else. I don't know if it's coming, but we can keep our fingers crossed. So
I'm
I think
sure.
that's my five. Do you have a fifth?
No, I think I mean, you could throw Aretha Franklin in there. I know that shit. I mean, that's
Another
obviously,
great voice.
that's somebody with a monster voice. I had a chance to work with her, not personally with her, but I did meet her a couple of times, and we had projects like Freeway of Love, Pink Cadillac. I Knew You Were Waiting with George Michael. Those are all Arista songs that we worked back in the day. But when I did meet her, she was very nice. So I can say that she really was the queen of soul and highly respected by everybody. And there were never any issues with her. I mean, she was very strong, opinionated about stuff. I knew we couldn't get her to fly places. I think she had a fear of flying. I think she
Mm.
took the bus everywhere, but she was a very nice woman, and people loved her.
I could
So
throw an extra one out there. And she, knowing her because I've talked to her numerous times, she would call me crazy for putting her in the top five list, but she's right there on the edge. And she's an incredible talent, an incredible person, and so much fun to hang out with. But Pink, she
yes,
really can sing. She's an amazing performer. Acrobatics and all that. And she's done some really cool songs, and I think she's a great songwriter, and I think she has a great voice.
yeah,
And
I can
she's
see
great
that.
to see in concert too. So,
Yeah.
so there
Can
you
I
go.
well, can I add somebody who I don't think should ever be on the list, or we'll get hate mail if I say
Yeah, go ahead. Go
J
ahead.
Lo? J Lo. I don't get J
Oh
Lo.
yeah, yeah. I think she's a better actress than she is a music performer.
Have you seen her movies?
A couple of them I didn't mind her in. Some of them, you don't like everybody's movie, but I've seen her do a few things that I didn't think she was terrible in. Do you remember that? What was the movie with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes in the subway? The Money
Uh,
Train.
Yeah,
Remember the
yeah,
Money
yeah.
Train?
Yeah, was she in that? I don't
She was
remember.
in that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't think she was bad in that. And she's been in a couple other things that I
Well, she's
thought
made a
were,
heck of a career, so I can't really knock that. I mean, she's
yeah,
become, you know, she built herself up. So
for sure, for
who am I
sure.
to criticize her? I don't want Mr.
Two,
Ben to knock on my door, okay? Ben Affleck.
two guys and a mic. I am Jim Ryan, and he is.
Mark Rizzo. You like that?
Yeah,
I gotta
you
get your
you
I have to
you
get
did
your
that cue
radio.
well. You
I have
played
to
that
get
cue well.
your radio voice. Jim Ryan on the air.
It's just me. This is how I talk. You
Well,
don't
this
think
is
so?
me. It's no I talk. So, yeah.
70 years combined, not solo, but 70 years combined. We've done radio, we've done records, and this podcast is going to be about that. We'll have guests on. I was just thinking maybe we should get somebody from, you mentioned radio and records. Maybe we should get our buddy Joel Denver on. Remember, now that there's no
Yeah,
more
he could
all
be a guest
access,
as
we could
well.
get Joel on and
We've
somebody
got a
from
lot of
radio and
friends in the
records.
business, a lot of friends with interesting stories. And I mentioned to you about our friend Sam, who, he ran the promotion department at Atlantic Records, and then he went over to MTV. He's got great stories about Phil Collins and all the artists at MTV. He could shed some more light on the other side of the stuff. You do the radio, I do the records, and he could talk about how they broke artists through, the famous MTV video days and all that craziness that went on.
Well, when we have Sam on, maybe we could get one of the VJs. I can call one of the VJs who used to work for me and have them come on.
But they don't get to win the car. Let's make that clear.
No, 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 no.
No car.
Get Mark Goodman on or Alan. Alan Hunter's funny. He'll have us laughing. So
Good. See, so
get one of those guys on.
for those that'll be sticking with us, there's lots of stuff coming your way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And don't forget to, subscribe and ring that bell. And
Now
hopefully you'll
let's
find us everywhere you get podcasts.
now let's back up for a minute. Is there a female artist that you didn't interview that you would have liked to?
Hmm. Well, I never did get to interview Stevie Nicks.
Okay, well there you go. She made the top of your list and you never
But
interviewed
I'll
her.
tell you, I did spend time with her bandmates. This was an interesting story. I spent time with her bandmate Christine McVie a few years ago.
She can't do our podcast.
No, I know. Sadly, she passed away. But a few years ago, they all came into the building. They were going to do a Fleetwood Mac channel, but none of them were speaking to each other. So the word was we couldn't let them see each other. So you had to strategically move them around the building from studio to studio, because they were doing different shows, but they were also doing content grab for their channel.
Wow.
So I was asked to spend the day with Christine McVie,
Hmm.
and we were going over. And one of the coolest stories she shared was when they were in England doing the Rumors album, what turned out to be the Rumors album, their biggest album of all time. They were
Yeah,
in this farmhouse in the middle of England somewhere. She mentioned, I can't remember the town. And, at that time, they were all either sleeping with each other or this, and there was a lot of drugs involved. It was a crazy time for the band. Anyway, she got the idea for the song You Make Lovin' Fun. Remember that song?
sure.
Okay. She got the idea for that one night while she was in her room. She had this little, like, portable Casio keyboard. Okay. Now she started playing and came up with like the first, not chorus. She came up with the first, what do you call the set of lyrics? Like the first verse, right? The
Sure.
first verse, and then the chorus. And she kept playing it and finally had it worked out and then decided it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. She couldn't wake up anybody to go record. And this is pre cell phone. This is pre recorders, portable, very much so. Like, maybe there was an old tape recorder, that you could have, pushed but she didn't have one. So, and she couldn't talk into the phone and record. So she stayed up all night because she was deathly afraid if she went to sleep, she would forget it.
That's
And
funny.
about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, she went down and knocked on the door for one of the engineers and made him get up and go in to the recording area so she could lay it down for the rest of the band later. But that was the essence of You Make Love and Fun.
Very cool.
And I thought that was like, oh my God, nowadays you just, pick out your phone and just do it and you'd remember it and you can go get some sleep.
And I'm sure there's an app for that, as they say.
Yeah, there's an app for that. But back in 1970 or whenever they were recording. I think the album came out in 70. What year did that Rumors come out? 77?
Um, Probably, yeah,
Yeah, I could
around
Google
there.
it real quick and look it up, but I'm sure it was like 77 or 76. Anyway, back then you didn't have that kind of equipment. But to answer your question, Stevie Nicks, how about you?
Who I would have liked to have
Met
worked
or
with.
worked?
Hmm,
Yeah.
I would have liked to have worked with. Well, before I answered, I just wanted to get back to what you said. Well, they were at the Sirius building, so they didn't see each other. It did
No,
work
we
out.
kept
They
them away
always,
from each other. Yeah.
that's unbelievable.
They came in different limos. I'm
And they
not
had
kidding.
all different schedules and made sure
Yeah.
nobody overlapped anybody
They
else.
knew each other was in the building, but they didn't want to see each other. There's strange dynamic for that band.
Well, that's like I think we mentioned that in one of the earlier episodes of my short little relationship with Hall and Oates that they had to go in separate cars and they didn't want to
Yeah.
work together and all that. And obviously now we know it's even worse than that with their relationship. But that's interesting.
Well, it's no
And
secret though. It's really no secret if you think Joe Perry and Steven Tyler talk about being named the Toxic Twins. And they really had, I mean, they would do anything for each other, but they butted heads and at times didn't talk and didn't get along. And I hear that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards have that same kind of issue at times.
sure, sure. I mean, I think other people have interviewed these type of artists and they say, how can you make such great hits together and yet you can't stay in the same room? Although you never hear that about Bernie and Elton. You never hear that they hate each other or they
No,
can't stand the sight of each other. I mean, we all know that they write in two separate rooms and all of that stuff,
yeah,
but that's a collaboration sort of that has been fantastic for both of them.
it
But
has.
for me to go back to what you asked, was there a female artist I wish I could have been involved with or worked with? Well, the easy answer would be great to be on the road with Taylor Swift and breaking that record or whatever when she first started. I mean, is there anyone out there now really that's exciting that I'd want to be a part of? I mean, I do get to work some of these projects with these artists. I don't have that interaction I do when I worked at the record label, but I don't really think there would be. I think I've been part of the Adele projects. I've worked Share Records. I've worked all of the different projects, but to have that personal on the road relationship with somebody or, let's get on the road and break a record, I don't think there would be anybody I would really want to be out there with.
Really
Not really.
interesting. Interesting.
Who would you pay to go see besides Stevie Nicks?
Who would I go pay to go see?
A female artist. Well, you like Pink, you mentioned that. I've
Yeah.
always told people I really don't know. I mean, maybe I'd see Celine Dion if she was healthy and she came back to hear that voice, or maybe Streisand, but I'm not a big fan of some of the other folks that are out there. I mean, I guess I'm not, in the age range of some
I'd
of the
pay to go
older
see.
folks.
I'd pay to go see Cheryl Crow. I would. I think
I
she's
like
a great
Alanis
artist.
Morissette.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
never
good.
told you my Alanis story, did I?
No, why don't
You
you
want
tell
to
me,
you want
please?
to hear my run in with Alanis?
Sure. Was it good or
Oh, it
bad?
wasn't a no, it wasn't a run in. It was actually funny. We still joke about it if when we see each other. And I've seen her several times at Sirius, and I used to do this event called Live in the Vineyard, um, which happened in Napa Valley. I used to go out there a couple times a year and record stuff. Anyway, it's mid 90s, right around 96, 97, when Jagged Little Pill came out.
Smash album.
And that was her big smash hit debut. And she was going to play this place in Philadelphia called the Electric Factory, which still exists. It's a concert venue, but back then it was basically there was like a few couches, but it was a stand up. It wasn't like a sit down venue. You stood up for the shows. But we did some shows in there when I was working at Y100 with Green Day and a few others. And it was going to be my job to bring Alanis Morissette on stage for this event. Backstage at the Electric Factory, I don't know if it's still this way, but there was one bathroom. Now the other bathrooms were all the way out, you know, in like the back and upstairs in this venue. So I needed to go to the bathroom. So I went in and doing my thing, and all of a sudden there was like a knock on the door. Alanis has got to get in, and I'm like, almost done. And there was no wait. She came in right into the bathroom as I was midstream.
It wasn't, you didn't lock the door?
No, I didn't lock the door. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't lock the door, and it was midstream, and needless to say, needless to say, it was quite an interesting first encounter.
Right.
I'm going to introduce her, and she was like, "Don't worry, don't worry. I just I got to make sure my makeup." And I finished and zipped up and quickly washed my hands while she moved over, and that was it. And then I introduced her on stage, and it was an interesting smile on her face when she saw me being the one on stage because we hadn't met prior to that. And then several times after meeting her at that event, then running into her again and reminding her of that and her remembering it, it was pretty funny.
So when you see her, do you say, want to go to the bathroom together?
No, but she's very nice about it. She doesn't even remember. At first, she didn't even remember it. But then we started, I was talking about, well, it was the Electric Factory in Philadelphia. And then she kind of remembered, I mean, I'm sure how many backstages has she been in her entire, career?
Exactly.
So, and her walking into a bathroom with a guy, going to the bed, I don't think that was like the biggest thing or most craziest thing that probably ever happened to her.
That's a fun little story. I have
Yeah.
no bathroom story like that. So.
No, you'd have no celebrity encounter like that.
Well,
Thankfully, I was faced away from her, and so it was a little less embarrassing when she walked in. You
good.
know.
Good for everybody, right?
Yeah,
Say hello to my little friend.
yeah, no. So you don't have any embarrassing encounters with artists?
No, no, no. I guess we locked bathroom doors at our store. So,
No, but not just that. When you were on the road or working with any, nothing that got
no, no, no.
a
Well,
little crazy at it. You
we had
never
no
took an
artists.
artist to a strip club as you were trying to break them? Come on.
We had no artists that want to go to strip clubs.
Anyway, it's two guys and a mic. My name is Jim Ryan. He is Mark Rizzo. Make sure you follow us and like the show and ring the bell and find us anywhere you get your podcast. We hope to put up a new one each and every week, based on music and our years of being in the music industry, both radio and records, and then other things. I know earlier you mentioned Kevin Costner, and I was going to bring that up because one of my all-time favorite shows, which you've never watched, and I'm desperately waiting for the
No,
rest of
no,
it to come
no,
back, is Yellowstone. And he got asked about that recently
right,
and did a pretty good job of stepping around who was responsible for all the delays, whether it was him or the rest of the cast or the guy, the creator, Taylor Sheridan. But basically said he would love to come back if the schedules work out. They're big
exactly.
air quotes,
Mhm.
which I tend to believe I don't know if it's going to come together and it's going to work out. I
Well,
hope it does because it's such a phenomenal show.
he said he had signed on for 3 years. He did the 3 years, and I think according to what he said, if the script was right and things all made sense, then I guess he would do what, the fourth year. But I guess that's up in the air because
Well,
he's
no,
in.
they're in season 5.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so but they've only aired like 6 or 7 episodes, and then I think I heard him say there's going to be 3 in the late fall, and then we don't know about the others to finish out the season. And I think that's what they're waiting on, whether or not he's going to be a part of it, or they're going to have to figure out how he's not a part of it anymore. But I don't see how you can not have him be a part of it. I know there's talk about a sequel with some of the cast members and moving on from Yellowstone. And there's been a couple prequels that
Right.
Billy Ray Cyrus did and Harrison Ford did, about the family prior to his time frame. We're talking about Kevin Costner as John Dutton. But it's so well done. It's such a good show, and if you've ever been to that part of the country, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Um, I've said for years, if money was no object, I'd keep my house here in Florida, and I'd have a house on the Jersey Shore, and I'd have a ranch somewhere in Wyoming. You know,
Well,
just because it's so beautiful out there.
God's country, they call it.
Yeah, if you've never visited and gone to Yellowstone, the park, or the Grand Tetons, it's something everybody should do. It is absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
And it's right here in America. You don't have to go overseas for it. You don't have to go to Disney and see it pretend wise.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You go and it's just an incredible national park and just the whole area. It's just, I've never spent a winter there, which I'm sure it's brutal,
Oof.
in in Wyoming and Montana in the winter, but it is beautiful in the summertime.
Well, I got to see Kevin at Whitney Houston's funeral, and then I always forget the word they call it after the service and the ceremony where you have some food and
Oh,
people
the
dance,
repass.
repass. And he had done such a great job. He did such an emotional eulogy for her that I think I said something to him like, it was amazing. But he was a very nice man.
You didn't
I
talk
asked
to
him
him,
to do
or you
that.
did?
I think I said hello. I mean, you're at a funeral. I don't think he
Yeah.
meant to sign anything. Hey, Kevin, would you mind signing my
No, 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 nothing
program?
like that. You wouldn't do that, but no, I think he's been in some great movies. I mean, it's hard to deny. I mean, Field of Dreams and
He said he was
Bull
in two
Durham.
baseball movies back to back. Yeah,
Yeah. Field of
interesting.
Dreams. If I come across that on TV, I will stop and watch that. I mean, name the movies that you come across on TV. The Godfather. I'm not, or Goodfellas. I'm not turning away from it. I'm watching
You
it.
know,
Field of Dreams is another one.
yep.
You got
I've
any
got some
others?
other titles I could give you, but I don't think we should
Why?
make a good joke of other types of films. Get it?
Oh, I got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Couple
Uh,
steps ahead here.
yeah, you
No, but I
couple
had a
steps into the
casino.
gutter is where you are.
I said Casino's one of the movies that you can't take your
Okay.
eye off of. Goodfellas, as you said, Godfather 1 or 2, maybe 3 you'd miss. But other than that, those are classics.
Oh,
That's
for
what I
sure.
call them.
Definitely classics, and I wouldn't turn away from. But Field of Dreams, I like baseball movies. A lot of different, and there's been a bunch of them. I don't love every one of them, but I like a lot of them, and I would stop and watch for sure.
What's the last movie you went to?
To the movies,
Yep.
Jeez, trying to remember. I used to go all the time. My wife and I, Kathleen, talk about that all the time.
Okay.
Um, but see the last one. Oh, I know what it was.
I can't think of one.
Was it? No, it wasn't that. I was going to say it was the last Top Gun movie, but there was another one I went to
I can't even
after
remember.
that. I can't remember what it was. It couldn't have been that memorable at this point. How about you?
Same thing. I can't remember what film we went to. You know, it's been so long. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. We talk
Yeah, I
about
mean,
buying albums and people buying books or people going to movies. Three different examples of how businesses have changed.
oh, for sure. I mean, I was going to say Top Gun, the last one, Maverick. I did go to see that before it came out on the Paramount lot.
I remember
I
you telling
went to a
me.
preview of that. I was meeting a guy we're going to have on as one of our guests coming up, Rick Stone, who was your boss back in A&M days. And I was in LA on business, and I thought we were just going out to have a bite to eat. And when he picked me up, he said, change of plans. I got us in to see a preview screening on the Paramount lot of the new Top Gun Maverick movie with Tom Cruise. I was like, whoa, that's cool. Is Tom going to be there? He goes, I don't know. I don't think so, but who knows? He may. And so we went it's the only time I ever went into a big actual movie theater, right? A screening theater. And as you walked in, there was no concession stand. So there was no refreshments whatsoever, no popcorn, nothing. But we got into the theater and watched the movie, and it was pretty incredible. And then there was all the scenes like right outside. There was all these pictures hanging up of the different movies that were filmed partly on the Paramount lot, from The Godfather,
Yeah,
from Braveheart, from all these different movies. And it was just after watching that series that they made with Miles Teller about the making of The Godfather called The Offer.
right.
and a lot of that was shot right there on the Paramount lot. So you recognized a lot of the scenery as I was walking around the lot. So that was a cool experience. First time I ever went to a movie, and it was like, I guess, 3 weeks before the movie actually came out.
Well, I think we mentioned my friend Jimmy before, but he works at
Yeah,
Universal. But prior to that, he worked at Paramount. And I used to meet him for lunch and we'd walk all over the lot. And it's a historic lot. I mean, Universal's a cool lot, but Paramount's been there forever. Back
yeah.
when I did I Love Lucy, and she started a daycare center for employees' kids and stuff there. And back in the day, her husband, Mr. Desi Arnaz, was a little bit of a playboy, and it was unspoken that if he was at the lot first and whatever he was doing were quite busy, the guards would buzz his office to let him know that she was coming onto the lot. So
Uh,
he was a little bit of a player, but we don't want to say anything. We don't know for sure, but that was just
right. That's
that
the
was
rumor.
that was the rumor. But she had done a lot for Paramount, and she had started that whole daycare thing there. And there was a guy there, an older producer. I don't know what his claim to fame was. I think he ended up being like a public relations guy. I think, and I have to ask Jimmy, AC Lyles. If you Google AC Lyles,
Okay.
maybe that was his name. This guy was like a combination of every stereotypical producer from the golden age to now. The guy had scarves on. And I think Jimmy, who was running security at the time, said that they would see on the security cameras at night he would be talking to all the girls. And he was really maybe responsible for the casting couch back in the day. But yes, he became quite the person for Paramount, and he had done early films, and he was like a history book, a walking, talking history book. So when we would go there, Jimmy said, "Let's go see AC Lyles." I believe that was his name, if I remember correctly. He's passed on since then, but he had stories about everybody because that was also the studio where Howard Hughes had locked himself up in the projection room for like a week or a month or something when he freaked out.
Oh,
So
okay.
a lot of history on Paramount.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
the bench that Tom Hanks sat on in
I told you to look for it when you went there.
yeah,
Across.
in Forrest Gump
Yeah,
was there. Yeah, I saw
I
that
told you.
bench.
Yeah,
So
it's a great lot.
two guys and a mic. It's Jim Ryan. He is Mark Rizzo. Like our podcast, subscribe. We're going to post them every single week. We'll have special guests coming up, and we need to grow the audience. And this is
We'll get
episode
there.
number 4. We do music and more from our experience in the radio and record industry for the last, well, you combine it, 70 years. Each of us have been in over 30 plus years, 35. And then, there'll be other things that are coming up. Big news recently, Justin Timberlake getting busted for drunk driving.
Hmm.
Did you see that story?
How could you not? But how did he get away with no bail? How did that? Drunk driving is pretty serious, especially
Yeah, I don't
on
know.
Long Island.
Yeah, out in the Hamptons, no less. He was out in Sag Harbor, I believe.
I just uh, I just pulled him up. His name was AC Lyles. I was correct. So I want to give him credit for being quite the informant when we were in the Paramount lot. But yes, getting back to Mr. Justin Timberlake, I don't know
Yeah,
if you can be brought in on drunk driving charges and not pay bail. But maybe
I know.
you, that's
According to
who
the
you
story
know.
that I read, he blew through a stop sign and was swerving, and the village police are the ones that
Yep,
stopped him.
yep.
Um, and if you ever been in Sag Harbor, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful town on the east end of Long Island. A lot of money, a lot of summer homes out there for the rich and famous. Um, and they said he was driving drunk, had bloodshot, glassy eyes, big odor of alcoholic beverages. How he got away without bail, I don't know.
I guess they have a lot
You
of
know,
money out there. They don't have to charge people that break the law, I
uh,
guess.
he's got a lot of. I'm sure he's going to have to appear and get it figured out, and hopefully, he made a mistake, and
Sure,
um,
it happens.
it
These people
happens.
do it a lot.
Happens to a lot of people.
But
Obviously, it's going to be he's going to get asked about it for the foreseeable future everywhere he goes. So
I mean, you would think. that you have a driver or even Uber or somebody. I mean, I guess you don't think you're drunk. I guess
See,
you
now
think,
that would be one of the things if he came to Sirius. I mean, I'm not there anymore, but if he was coming to Sirius now after this event, they would keep us from asking about it.
close,
Okay. Unless he's going on Howard Stern, and Howard probably would say, no, if he's coming on this show, everything's open.
close.
But Howard's got, a different set of rules and pull.
Yeah,
So,
well, he would just own up to it. He would say, we maybe he'd have a good publicist that would feed him all the information to say, listen,
right,
fortunate, it was a bad mistake. We're all
right.
guilty of making bad choices, and I feel extremely ashamed of what I did. Thank
Yeah,
God.
get out in front of it because when you don't talk about it, it's just more things get made up and speculated, and the story just keeps perpetuating because you don't say anything about it. Most of these, if you got out in front of it, and he's not the first person, he won't be the last person that gets,
Who's who's been arrested for this,
yeah.
sadly.
So it's best to get out in front of it and be on top of it, and instead of not talking about it and thinking it's going to go away, then it doesn't go away, at
Yeah,
least.
it's just unfortunate because he had a pretty good, he's got a pretty decent reputation, although it did get slammed a little when the Britney Spears book came out and they talked about the abortion, and that might
Yeah.
be a strike against him. And now this could be like a number two strike against him. I don't know, but he's got a couple of challenges that his publicists and his people have been facing, I'm sure.
So who did you ever, as a label person, was there ever a story that broke about an artist that you guys had to scramble to figure out the best way to diffuse the situation?
I don't know nothing about Millie Vanilli. I know nothing about nothing. Okay?
Oh
I don't,
yeah.
I don't
That's
know
right.
anything
You
about
you
that.
were there at Arista when that
I
whole
don't
mess
know.
went
I
down.
don't know anything about what could have.
Yeah, okay,
But
come
I
on.
mean, that was the story
You're
that was
here
much
you're
bigger.
here to tell the story. Tell the story. At this point, is it
That was
one of
much
them?
bigger than all of us.
Isn't one of them? One of them I know is dead. The other
Yes,
one's still
no.
alive, is he?
I mean, you talk about a scandal, but now when you look back and you see how many artists perform to track and how many artists probably cannot sing as well as the five people we mentioned who have real talent and real voices. We know we won't drop names of people we know that probably can't sing or were never able to really sing to compete to what
Right.
the five that we said. And there's so many techniques and tricks you can do in the studio and stuff you can do on stage. But back then, when that story broke, I mean, they were great performers. I mean,
Yeah.
the videos were great. They had dance moves. They were fairly good looking. They had a great following. And I remember because I wasn't the field person. I mean, I wasn't out there with them, but on their first show, I think they were doing a rehearsal. And I think we might have spoke about this on one of our first episodes. And I think our local person had called in and said, they're rehearsing, but the tape broke, but there was some kind of a technical issue. And maybe it's like when you're playing a record and it gets stuck, but I guess the story was out at that point that they weren't singing live.
Yeah.
I guess the voices on the record, but I mean, what's the thought process? We're going to have studio singers do an album, then we're going to put these two front guys in front of it, and no one's going to find out.
I'm sure it had happened over the years and maybe no one did find out. Um, you know, but they got caught because of what happened and it became this big deal and it became, because they had won a Grammy for Best New Artist and it just became
Exactly.
this whole big thing. But then you saw many, years later, Ashley Simpson got caught doing it on SNL. Then came word that even though everybody knew she could sing and there was no doubt she could sing, but Whitney Houston lip synced the national anthem at the Super Bowl in Tampa, um, because they recorded it because in a stadium, it's very hard to get that sound
Right.
at the time. So that's what I had heard. It was a recording, and she just mouthed along with, even though she is the one who sang it and recorded it. I don't think she's accused of not being able to sing. But then, stadiums for a national or worldwide TV audience where they're trying to make it sound like it's sounding like it's on an album and not in a huge stadium with the sound going up out of nowhere.
Sure. It's hard.
Um, so it's different, but it had to be an embarrassing time to be working at the label when that all broke out, huh?
I'm, I don't remember all of it. I know obviously things got crazy. There
Did you
were,
sign some kind of agreement you would never talk about this thing?
listen, I was just a little guy who was trying to work the records. I don't know what was going on in the executive levels. I knew they had came from overseas, and maybe overseas it was not a big deal for performing like that. But I guess they thought they could get away with it. It wasn't going to be a big deal. I think they were going to try to sing. I think that was like step two. Didn't they say, "Oh no, we really can sing"? And I think that turned into a disaster.
You know, we have to get on this podcast. Good friend of both of ours. You worked with him for a while at Arista, Kenny Lane.
So he's got good stories.
Yeah, I'm sure he does have some good stories.
He wasn't there for that, though. I don't think he was
No,
there.
but then you can talk about because you've told me some of the stories about him and the
No,
boss and
I
him and
admired him because he just wasn't afraid. He didn't care. Just
yeah. Well, let Ken tell those stories. We'll get him on. Two guys and a mic. It's Jim Ryan. He's Mark Rizzo. It is Music and More. It's our weekly podcast. Wherever you find your podcast here on YouTube, and make sure you like us and ring the bell and subscribe so we can keep going and grow this thing into something huge and be a big smash, man. That's what we want it to be.
Well, I mean, what I think this will be interesting to a lot of people, besides our anecdotes and our stories, is kind of a peek behind the curtain of how songs, you know, start from like the ground up, and how some of these people that we'll have on the show can talk about, how they went on the road and they broke a record out of Chicago and they spread it to Detroit and then it became a hit and they were with the artist who heard it for the first time on the radio. Like old great stories of how stuff was, you know, from the beginnings. And a lot of the people, our guests, were part of, you know,
Yeah.
early careers of some major superstars. And I
And
think
the
that,
endless phone calls that we would get at radio from guys like you who would go, play the record, please. Come on, play the record.
why it
What can
just
I
increases
do to
the
get you to play
business.
the record?
Yeah, because it can make a big difference. Back then, radio was king, and I think we touched on this earlier as well. That it's changed, but some of those stories, I think the people that we can have to talk about, it's interesting, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's about like one person's passion or one person's job, and he did his job well, and he broke the record. If he didn't do his job well, what might have happened to that record or that artist?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And next episode, the top five list that we'll each go through greatest albums of all time.
Hmm.
Greatest
Okay.
albums of all time.
I'm
I could
putting Milli
rattle
Vanilli
them off
right up
right
there.
now, but I won't do that. We'll save that for the next episode.
I said I was putting Milli Vanilli right on the top of the list.
Oh, no, you're not. We'll have to edit that part out right away. No.
So,
If you wish to put Milli Vanilli on it, I won't hold it against you. I won't ever take a recommendation after that about music from you, but
okay.
two guys and a mic here. Make sure you like it, subscribe, and catch us next week with what will be episode 5.
Will we have a guest on that one, or we're waiting for
You
Sam?
know, I think we're shooting for our friend. Who did we say? We didn't say Rick because Rick is
We
going to
said
be back.
Sam.
Sam
We can,
Kaiser,
yeah, we can have Sam come on for
record
a while.
guy,
Yep.
worked at MTV.
And Atlantic Records. So he's got
Yeah.
great Atlantic Record stories, and we could go into a whole different vibe about how MTV and how that affected the business.
And then he'll tell us how the St. Louis Cardinals will win the World Series.
That'll be the part of more music and more.
It's the podcast, two guys and a mic. Thanks for listening.